My mother called it a difficult decision when she told me I wouldn't be at the table for my father's 70th birthday dinner. What she meant was that I didn't fit the picture she'd been building for the last 3 years. Ever since she married into money and decided that her past, including me, needed to be quietly retired. I'd paid for half that dinner. The venue, the custom cake, the string quartet my stepfather wanted, because apparently birthday parties need string quartets now. I pulled every dollar back in one afternoon. The reservation collapsed. The caterer walked. And when my father called, crying, asking where I was already on a train to Nashville with a window seat and absolutely no apologies left in me. That's the short version. Here's the one that actually hurt. My father turned 70 in October. For most families, a milestone like that means chaos in a good way. Too many cousins, someone's kid knocking over the cake, an uncle who tells the same story from 1987 that somehow gets funnier every year. That's what I grew up with. That's what I thought we still were. But my father remarried 4 years ago. Her name is Rochelle. She came with a daughter named Petra. No, wait, I need to use different names. My stepsister. She came with a daughter, and a very specific idea of what an elegant family looked like. I was not part of that idea. I never quite figured out why, except that I am loud when something is funny. I show up to things in jeans when the occasion doesn't call for anything more. And I once told Rochelle to her face that her beef Wellington was dry. I said it kindly. I said it like a person who assumes you can take a light joke at the dinner table. I was wrong about that. My name is Nadia. I'm 29. I work in logistics, which means I spend most of my days solving problems other people created and didn't want to fix themselves. It's good training for what comes later in this story. My dad and I were always close in the specific way that fathers and daughters who don't say, "I love you," very often, are still obviously close. Inside jokes, shared silences, knowing exactly how he takes his coffee. When he told me he was getting remarried, I was happy for him. I showed up to his wedding in a dress I bought specifically so Rochelle would have nothing to say. I smiled through the whole reception. I even slow danced with my stepbrother, who was 12 and had no idea what to do with his hands. The first year was fine, a little stiff but fine. The second year, things started to calcify. It was small things at first. I'd be left off an email chain about holiday plans and find out later everyone assumed I already knew. A family photo got taken at Easter while I was in the bathroom, and when I came back, someone said, "Oh, we already got it, but we can do another one." They did not do another one. I noticed. I didn't say anything because I'd been told my whole life that noticing things made me dramatic. Then my stepsister started planning my dad's 70th birthday. I found out through my dad, who mentioned it casually over the phone, like it was something I obviously already knew about. I did not obviously already know about it. I had not been included in a single conversation. I called my stepsister, Rochelle's daughter, and asked if I could help. She paused in a way that told me everything before she said a single word. "Oh, of course, we'd love that. I'll add you to the group chat." She added me to the group chat. There were already 23 messages in it. It had been going for 3 weeks. I scrolled back through. Everyone was there. My dad's brother, Rochelle's sister, my stepbrother, even my dad's old college friend who I'd met exactly twice. My name was nowhere in the thread until that moment. I told myself it was an oversight. I contributed anyway. I researched venues because I know my dad, and I knew he'd want something with a fireplace and space to move around, not a private dining room where everyone sits in a straight line like they're waiting for a job interview. I found a place 40 minutes outside the city, a converted farmhouse with long wooden tables and Edison lights, and a patio that faced a hill. My dad would have loved it. I proposed it in the chat. The response was polite and completely non-committal, the digital equivalent of a nod that means nothing. My stepsister said she'd look into it. 2 days later, she announced they'd booked a venue, a hotel ballroom downtown. Exactly the kind of place my dad would find exhausting. I let it go. I told myself it wasn't about me, it was about him. Then came the budget conversation. My stepsister laid it out. Venue deposit, catering per head, the cake, entertainment. It was a real number, a significant number, and they were splitting it proportionally by household. When she said my share, I said yes without even flinching because he was my dad, and it was his 70th. And what else was I going to say? I wired my portion within 48 hours. I didn't ask for a receipt. I didn't ask for anything. I just paid. 3 weeks went by. I kept checking the chat for updates. Seating, timeline, who was giving a toast. I sent one message asking whether family was doing speeches and got back a single thumbs up emoji from my stepsister, who had organized a 20-person surprise dinner and apparently had time for everyone except a direct answer to a yes or no question. Then I got the email. It came from my stepsister's personal address, not the group chat. The subject line was, "Just a quick note. I want to be honest and transparent," she wrote. "We've been trying to keep the vibe of the evening really intimate and cohesive. The people closest to Dad and Rochelle as a couple. You know how these things go. The more people, the harder it is to maintain the energy we're going for. We think it's best to keep it to a tighter circle. I hope you understand. We still love you, and we'll definitely celebrate with you separately." Intimate, cohesive, we. I read it 3 times. The first time I felt confused. The second time I felt something burning start in my sternum. The third time I understood exactly what had happened. I had paid for a dinner I was not invited to attend, not a misunderstanding, not a miscommunication, a deliberate, considered, privately composed email sent specifically to tell me that my money was welcome, but I was not. I sat at my kitchen table for a long time. My coffee went cold. The afternoon light moved across the floor in that slow way it does in October, and I watched it, like it was something I needed to pay attention to, so I didn't think about the other thing. I called my father. He picked up on the second ring, voice warm, completely unaware. "Hey, kiddo, what's up?" I almost told him everything right then, but I wanted to see something first. "Just calling to check in," I said. "How are you feeling about the birthday?" "Good," he said, excited. "It should be a nice dinner. You'll be there, right?" He didn't know. Or he thought he knew. Or, and this was the worst possibility, he knew and had been told I was handling it fine. "I'll talk to you soon, Dad," I said. "Love you." I hung up and immediately called my mother. We're not close in the complicated way that happens when a marriage ends badly and both people love the kids but handle it differently. But she knows me. She knows when I'm actually okay and when I'm performing okay. She picked up on the 4th ring. "What happened?" she said immediately. Not a question. I told her about the email. I read it to her word for word. The silence on her end lasted about 4 seconds, which is a long time when you're waiting for someone to tell you you're not crazy. "Nadia," she said, "they used your money. I know. For a party they didn't invite you to. I know." "Okay," she said, in that tone she gets when she's decided something. "What do you want to do?" I hadn't gotten that far yet. I was still in the part where I was trying to figure out if I'd misread something, done something wrong, missed a signal I should have caught. That's the part nobody talks about. The way you spend the first hour after a betrayal trying to find a way to make it your fault, because somehow that's easier than accepting what actually happened. I went to bed that night without responding to the email. The next morning, I woke up and checked the group chat one more time, and I'm almost hoping someone had said something that would make this make sense. The last message in the thread was my stepsister, confirming the final head count. 18 people. My name was not in the list. I opened my banking app. The transfer I'd made 3 weeks ago sat in my transaction history like a bad joke. Below it, the remainder of the payment I'd promised, the second installment, scheduled for the end of the month. I looked at the schedule option for a while. Then I canceled it. Then I did the harder thing. I spent about 2 hours on the phone that afternoon. The catering manager was kind and apologetic. The venue had a cancellation window, and I was just inside it. My payment, my portion, was tied to specific line items because I had insisted on paying by invoice rather than through my stepsister, because I work in logistics and I always pay by invoice. That specificity was the thing that saved me. I could retract what I'd funded. Not all of it, not cleanly, but enough. I sent my stepsister an email, short, factual, no anger in the language, because I have learned that when you're genuinely done with someone, you stop performing emotions at them. I've been informed that I won't be attending the dinner. As a result, I've withdrawn my financial contribution to the portions I directly funded. Please update your budget accordingly. I didn't explain. I didn't ask why. I didn't give her an opportunity to manage me with soft language, and we still love you. She called within the hour. I let it go to voicemail. My father called an hour after that. I picked up. What's going on? He sounded confused, not angry, which told me he'd just been looped in and was still trying to figure out what he was dealing with. I got an email from your stepdaughter saying I wasn't welcome at your birthday dinner, I said. Not unkindly, just clearly. I had already contributed money, so I withdrew the portion I could. Silence. That wasn't, he stopped. I didn't know about that email. I know you didn't, Dad, Nadia. I want you there. I know, and I believed him. I did, but wanting something and protecting it aren't the same thing, and he had not protected me from this. Maybe he didn't know he needed to. Maybe that's its own conversation. This isn't about the party anymore, I said. I need you to understand that. It stopped being about the party the moment I realized they took my money and handed me an excuse. He was quiet for a long time. I'm so sorry. I know. Will you talk to Rochelle? Not right now, Dad. My voice didn't shake. I'm proud of that. Right now, I just need you to know what happened. That's all. We said goodbye. I sat on my couch in the quiet and realized the anger had already moved through me faster than I expected. What was left underneath it was something older and slower. The feeling of being quietly sorted out of a life that was supposed to include you. I booked the train ticket to Nashville that night. I'd been meaning to visit a college friend there for over a year and kept finding reasons to delay. Suddenly, I had no more reasons. My friend, Dex, short for Dexler, which is a name I will never stop finding hilarious, met me at the station with bad coffee and immediate conversation, which is exactly what I needed. He didn't ask what was wrong. He asked if I wanted tacos or Thai food for dinner, and I said tacos, and we went and sat outside in the warm October air, and I felt my shoulders drop for the first time in days. I didn't check my phone much that first evening, but when I did, there were 4 messages from Rochelle. I opened them only because I'd never received a message from her directly in 4 years of being technically family, and curiosity is a hard thing to suppress. The first one started with the word sweetheart. I stopped reading after that. The second one was longer. She explained that these intimate gatherings required careful curation. She used the word cohesive again, same word as my stepsister's email, which told me they'd talked before either of them contacted me. She said she hoped I understood that this wasn't personal. Not personal. Like I was a dinner reservation they'd double booked. The third message said the venue had contacted them about a discrepancy in the deposits. She did not say please. She said, we need to sort this out before the weekend. The fourth message said, I think we started off on the wrong foot. Let's talk. I put my phone face down on the table and finished my tacos. Dex glanced at the phone, then at me. Bad, manageable, I said. You want to talk about it? Not yet, I said. Tell me something normal. He told me about a dispute at his office over who was responsible for replacing the communal coffee machine. It lasted 20 minutes and was extremely satisfying to hear about. Sometimes normal is the most generous thing someone can give you. The dinner, from what I eventually pieced together, did not go smoothly. The venue had reallocated part of the space when the full deposit wasn't completed on time. The catering was adjusted. Smaller portions. The string quartet. Yes, they'd hired a string quartet, which felt extremely on brand. Apparently showed up an hour late because no one had confirmed the call time in writing. My aunt, my dad's younger sister, texted me 2 days after the event. She's the kind of person who calls things what they are, which is rare and worth protecting. I don't know exactly what happened, she wrote, but I want you to know I noticed you weren't there. I asked your dad about it. He didn't have a good answer. I'm sorry, kid. You deserved better than whatever that was. I read it twice. My throat did something complicated. I texted back, thank you for saying that. It means more than you know. She responded, for the record, the food was mediocre and the room was too cold. You didn't miss much in terms of ambiance. I actually laughed. Sitting on a bench outside a coffee shop in Nashville on a Tuesday morning, I laughed out loud at my phone, and a woman walking by gave me a look, and I didn't care at all. My dad called again on the 3rd day. This time the conversation was different. He wasn't managing the situation anymore. He just sounded like himself, a little tired, a little old in the way people sound when they've had to admit something they didn't want to admit. "The dinner was fine," he said, "but it wasn't what I wanted. What did you want?" "I wanted you there," he said. "It was my birthday. You're my daughter. I wanted you there." I didn't say anything for a moment. "I want to be honest with you about something, Dad." I'd rehearsed this part in my head, not because I was planning a speech, but because I needed to say it clearly, and I only wanted to say it once. "I'm not angry at you. But what happened? The way I was left out, the way my money was taken first, that's not something I can just move past without acknowledging. I need to know that you see it." Another long pause. "The good kind this time. I see it," he said. "And I'm ashamed that it happened in my name. Even if I didn't know. That mattered. I won't pretend it fixed everything, because it didn't. The relationship between me and Rochelle is probably never going to be warm. My stepsister and I are, at best, polite strangers at holidays. There are family dynamics in that house that I don't have the power to change and have stopped trying to. But my father and I, that stayed intact, and I needed it to. I came home 5 days after I left. The city looked the same as it always does when you've been gone just long enough to see it fresh, familiar, and a little indifferent, like it kept going without you and didn't feel bad about it. I unpacked slowly, made tea, sat at the kitchen table where I'd read that email for the third time and finally understood what it meant. There's a thing that happens when you stop making yourself smaller for people who never asked you to grow in the first place. You notice how much energy you were spending, how automatic it had become. The way you'd learn to preemptively apologize for taking up space, or soften your opinions before you'd even finished forming them, or assume that any conflict involving you was probably your fault for existing too loudly. I wasn't going to do that anymore. Not because I was angry, though I had been. Not to prove something to anyone, though maybe I did. But because somewhere between a venue deposit and a train ticket, I had understood something I hadn't been able to name before. I had been treating people as though their discomfort with me was my problem to solve. It wasn't. It never was. I posted one photo while I was in Nashville. Just a shot of the coffee Dex had handed me at the station, still steaming, taken through the train window. No caption at first. Then I added one, because it felt right and I was done being careful. Didn't fit the picture. Took a better one. My aunt liked it immediately. My dad liked it a few hours later. A handful of people I hadn't spoken to in years commented with the kind of emoji that means I see you without anyone having to say it directly. Nobody from Rochelle's side of the family reacted at all. That said more than anything else. If you've ever been the person who pays and plans and shows up and holds things together, only to find out later that they were counting on your effort but not your presence, I want you to hear this directly. Your presence is not a disruption. It's not too much. It's not too loud or too rough or too anything. The people who built a table and quietly kept you from a seat at it, they made a choice. That choice belongs to them. You are allowed to stop funding events you're excluded from. You're allowed to take the train. You're allowed to eat tacos in the warm air and laugh at something normal and let your shoulders come down for the first time in days. And if your father calls on the third night and says, in a tired and honest voice, that he sees it, hold on to that. Not because it fixes everything, but because some things don't need to be fixed. They just need to be named. The rest, you get to write yourself.